Hello, thank you for joining us today and welcome to Warning, this webinar may lead you to hate your office coffee. Today we are going to explore recent innovations in office coffee from beans to office coffee brewing equipment and finally the secret weapon of coffee brewing, filtered water. Before we get started, I have a couple housekeeping items. If you have a question during the webinar, please write your question in the comments box. We will address as many questions as we can at the end of the webinar. We will be sure to include the answers of any questions we don't get to with the presentation slides and video, which will be available tomorrow. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Quench's resident coffee expert, Phil Seiden. With 25 years of experience in office coffee, Phil understands the importance of freshly roasted coffee, quality brewing equipment, and the importance of great tasting water to brewing a flavorful, aromatic cup of coffee. Hello, Phil.
Hi, and thank you for your time today. Everyone has heard the familiar comment that office coffee is bad coffee. Often we hear people refer to their office coffee as burnt, bitter, or weak. Also, many employees wonder how long the packages of coffee have been sitting in their cabinet, and if they are old and stale. No one ever wants a cup of coffee from a pot that has been sitting on the burner less than half filled because you know that it'll taste burnt. Let's break down how this scenario is ruining your coffee experience. First reason the office coffee quality is bad is because traditional office coffee providers constantly restock office break room cabinets with coffee. They rarely take the time to rotate the stock, making the coffee stale. Secondly, the brewing equipment is not optimal to provide the best tasting coffees. Water temperature, contact time, and proper maintenance are all involved in brewing the best tasting coffee. And finally, unfiltered water is a key issue when discussing office coffee quality. Water with bad taste and odor, like chlorine taste and smell, can greatly diminish the quality, including both the flavor and aroma of your coffee. Now, office coffee doesn't have to be bad. Industry innovations and know-how allow offices to have barista quality coffee in the office, complete with the aromas and flavors that you're accustomed from the best coffee houses. During the past several years, the industry has focused on the art and science of coffee, from the unroasted green bean to the brewed in your cup coffee. As a result, we have seen both huge corporations as well as independent roasters hand-select coffee beans to create unique flavor profiles. Today's roasters have also stressed the need for using freshly roasted beans when brewing coffee to ensure the drinker is treated to the most flavorful and aromatic cup of coffee. Freshly roasted beans have a more potent, flavorful aroma compared to older, stale beans. The difference between freshly roasted beans and stale beans is palatable. Other innovations have worked to keep roasted beans and ground coffee fresher for longer. We've also seen a revolution in coffee brewer technology. New brewer technology keeps coffee fresh and hot for hours instead of the typical 10 minutes on the burner. Further, we have seen the introduction and growth of the single-serve brewer, which can make an individual cup of coffee in about a minute. Coffee is made mostly of water, 98.5% of water to be exact. So it's natural for the industry to pay attention to water quality for brewing coffee.
Sorry to stop you, Phil, but could you say that there is a formula to great tasting coffee? It starts with fresh coffee, and by adding high quality brewing equipment and filtered water, you get great tasting, flavorful coffee?
That is exactly what I am saying. If you have these three elements, your entire office coffee experience will greatly improve and you will love the taste of your office coffee.
Gotcha. So let's take a deeper dive into what are good coffee beans.
There are over 100 different coffee species, but only two are widely produced and sold, the Arabica and the Robusta. Arabica comprises of about 75 to 80% of the world production of coffee, though a few specialty roasters have been experimenting with the Robusta in their espresso blends. Robusta beans are typically grown in lower altitudes, are more disease and pest resistant, and produce a larger crop, leading it to be much cheaper. While Robusta beans have a higher caffeine content, they tend to brew into a more bitter coffee. On the other hand, Arabica beans are grown in higher altitudes and are more susceptible to pests and diseases. but they contain almost twice the amount of sugar as a Robusta bean, producing a much sweeter coffee. Just like grapes for wine, the climate, soil, growing method, moisture levels, sunlight, and altitude of the coffee plant play a critical role in the coffee bean taste profile. For example, coffee beans from Central and South America have a sweet, almost buttery taste, whereas coffee beans from Africa tend to have a fruity, almost floral flavor profile. Sometimes coffee beans from the same region, like South America, can have different flavor profiles depending on the altitude and growing conditions. Roasters take great care in producing a complex coffee flavor, from the aroma to the taste on your tongue and finally to the aftertaste. To create this complex flavor, they often combine a variety of different beans to create a flavorful blend. Some of the most popular examples of this today are blends referred to as donut shop or house blend coffees. By blending the different coffees, the roasters are able to provide a consistent cup of coffee year after year. Roasting plays an incredible role in the flavor produced by the same coffee bean. Some roasters will create a blend before roasting the beans, while some prefer to roast the different beans separately to produce different roasting flavors. This video shows how a small batch of coffee beans are roasted. Freshly picked coffee bean or cherry is a green color and actually smells like toast or popcorn. As heat is added to the beans, the color changes from green to light brown to medium brown to dark brown. Medium roasts have a strong flavor. They still retain the origin flavors, but also have picked up some of the roasting process flavors. While medium roasts do not have as much caffeine as light roasts, they offer a more balanced flavor, aroma, and aren't as bitter. Finally, dark roasts range from very dark brown to almost charred beans. The origin flavors have been eclipsed by the roasting flavor. Peet's Coffee and Starbucks use dark roasts. Freshness is essential to the proper coffee experience roasters envision when creating their coffee blend. Packaging is critical to maintaining the freshness of the coffee. When exposed to oxygen, coffee and its flavor deteriorates. To combat this, roasters now utilize a nitrogen-infused process to flush out any residual oxygen. The packaging is then sealed, providing a longer shelf life and ensuring the freshest cup of coffee.
Great overview on coffee. Now let's discuss the importance of the coffee brewer.
Okay, remember this Folgers commercial? I think it best shows the coffee experience, the smells, the aromas, and sounds.
This early light breaks through. Music and dance calling you. Just need that mountain room lift before you share your gift. Now there's rhythm and sound, making their hearts pound. This morning waking up, this Folgers in your cup.
A bad brewer will limit this experience. The smells, the aromas, and sounds are far more vibrant with a good coffee brewer. So what makes a good coffee brewer? Actually, there are three key factors to a good brewer. Water temperature. It is ideal for the water to be heated between 200 and 204 degrees Fahrenheit. Water contact time with the grounds in coffee, and agitation of the coffee grounds. Or a simpler way to think about it is, we need very hot water. We need that the water be in contact with the coffee for a certain length of time, and while the water is in contact with the coffee, we want it to mix up the coffee grounds. Once we have these three aspects, a good coffee brewer replaces a glass carafe and hot plate with a thermal carafe to keep coffee freshly brewed and hot for hours without burning your coffee. Single cup brewers have benefits of their own. Keurig and pod brewers allow users to brew an individual cup of fresh coffee with hundreds of different coffee flavor choices quickly. Both the Keurig and pod brewers are also excellent brewers because they incorporate the three factors we've previously discussed.
So we have discussed the coffee and the brewer. Now it is time for the secret ingredient in coffee, water.
Yes, good water is crucial for making great tasting coffee. And it makes common sense. Coffee is 98.5% water, so to ensure great tasting coffee, you need great tasting water. Tap water usually has a chlorine taste and smell. This chlorine taste and smell interacts with the coffee bean flavor profile and just tastes bad. By adding a water purification system, you ensure the ingredient that makes up over 98% of your coffee is great tasting. The water system truly makes a huge difference in both the taste and quality of your coffee. The type of water filtration used is equally important. Using distilled, demineralized, or ultra-pure water to brew coffee produces a bland, less tasty cup of coffee. Instead, using filtered water free from chlorine and other contaminants, but still including healthy minerals to brew your coffee will dramatically increase the quality, taste, aroma, and overall experience of your coffee. Good coffee plus high-quality brewing equipment plus great-tasting filtered water equals great-tasting, flavorful coffee. But for years, offering great-tasting, flavorful coffee in the break room meant one vendor for coffee, one vendor for brewing equipment, and one vendor for filtered water and all the headaches associated with having three vendors. However, new business models have created end-to-end coffee solutions with a single vendor for coffee, brewing equipment, and filtered water. Quench is a leading provider of filtered water and other products, like water coolers, ice machines, sparkling water coolers, and of course, coffee brewers. Quench services over 40,000 customers, including more than half the Fortune 500. Quench's comprehensive office coffee service is second to none. By combining our water filtration know-how with high-quality coffee brewing equipment, Quench can help you enjoy great-tasting coffee in your office. Quench offers thermal, single-cup pod, and Keurig brewers as well as a broad selection of different coffee options from some of the finest roasters including Starbucks, Peet's Coffee and Tea, Green Mountain Coffee, and our very own freshly roasted Café Del Campo, as well as traditional national brand coffees. Unlike traditional office coffee providers who constantly overstock your break room, Quench offers two efficient delivery options that put you in control of your break room stock. With automatic ordering, our coffee experts can help you determine your monthly coffee and break room needs, and then we will deliver only what you have requested. Or you can use our easy-to-navigate website to order coffee and break room supplies as you need.
Thanks, Phil. I believe we have some time for questions. If you haven't already, please use the comment box to the right to ask your question. If we do not get to your question today, we will make sure to include the answer with the presentation slides tomorrow. Our first question comes from Matt. He would like us to expand on how light roasts have more caffeine than dark roasts.
Thanks, Matt. Many coffee drinkers view stronger dark roasts as having more caffeine than lighter roasts, as they associate the bold flavors of dark roast with caffeine content. However, these intense flavors are actually produced from roasting the bean and are not indicators of caffeine levels. There are two schools of thought on why lighter roasts have more caffeine. One is the beans lose caffeine as they are roasted, thus beans that are roasted for less time will have a higher caffeine content. The other contends that light and dark roasts actually have the same caffeine content, but that since the light roasts are smaller than dark roasts, more beans are used when brewing the coffee, thus producing a cup of coffee with more caffeine.
Thanks, Phil. Jumping on Matt's question, Kathy wanted to know if decaffeinated coffee is really free from caffeine.
Kathy, what a great question. The simple answer is decaffeinated coffee is not free from caffeine. The USDA allows roasters to label a coffee decaffeinated if they've removed 90% of the caffeine content from the bean. That means an average 12-ounce cup of decaffeinated coffee contains about 5.4 milligrams of caffeine.
Okay, So our next question comes from Drew. He says he likes a stronger, bolder coffee in the morning to help him wake up, but a lighter, more mellow blend in the afternoon. He would like to know what he should be looking for.
Thanks, Drew. This is a bit of a complicated question, but I think I can point you in the right direction. If you are using Quench Thermal Brewer or have what is called frac packs in your break room, look for a packet that has more coffee in it, say something with 2.5 ounces of coffee. Then in the afternoon, look for something with less coffee, say 1.5 ounces of coffee. The more coffee in a packet will produce a bolder, stronger flavor because the water has more coffee to interact with. If you have a single cup brewer in the break room, I recommend selecting mild, medium, or bold when selecting your brew options, as this will determine how the water interacts with your K-cup or coffee pod. I hope that helps.
Unfortunately, we only have time for one more question. Allison says she manages a very environmentally conscious office. Do you have any brewer recommendations?
Great question, Allison. My first thought is thermal brewers are a good, environmentally friendly brewer. Since you are brewing several cups of coffee at once, you have less packaging. And since thermal carafes eliminate the burner, you can save about $30 on your electricity bill for each 3-burner you replace. Another alternative is single cup pod brewers. The coffee pods used to brew are about 2.5 inches wide and are comprised of coffee grounds encased in filter paper. There is no plastic, making used pods 100% biodegradable.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you again for joining us for today's webinar. As a thank you, we are offering you $50 of coffee supplies with rental of a Quench water cooler and coffee brewer. Call a Quench water and coffee expert today at 844-894-2485. Be sure to mention promo code QCoffee. Have a great day.